So I got to make a video on this. This is something that's I've been mulling over for years and years and years. I'm an introspective person. I'm an introverted person, which is not necessarily a good thing in a lot of ways. But people who are introspective and introverted tend to be very deep. So I do have that going for me. It would be great if I was a little bit less introverted. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I have been mulling this over for years and years. And this is something that I've been going through in my personal life. This is something that I've been going through in my Christian life. And it's really affected every aspect of my life in really every way. And there's a lot of question marks, and there's a lot of, there's just so much that, really I started suffering probably 2002, around there. Yeah. 2002, 2003 is when I first started suffering. Although I will say that 2003 to 2006 weren't bad years for me. I think I was like 18, 19, 20, and 21, and maybe 19 to 22. 18 was a horrible year for me. If you follow my channel, you might know a little bit about how I talk about my illness and how I got sick and things like that. I'm not gonna really dwell on that here today. We're talking about sufferings today. So I did get sick, and that's important to this conversation because it's something that is a key component of my whole point here. I got sick, and I started to suffer. And around that time, coincidentally, I also found God, I found Christ, I found Jesus and things like that, even though I was more or less born in the church. Usually it was actually less because my family was tumultuous. We had a dysfunctional family, which also plays into this somewhat, particularly when it comes to my psychology, psychologically, things like that. A lot of people out there have had messed up families. It ain't all good. It ain't all the Jeffersons. It ain't all the whatevers, right? The fucking, any sitcom with a family and it's a great family. It ain't like that. It's more like Family Guy. Dysfunctional, man. A lot of people out there are dysfunctional, so a lot of people can relate with what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to dwell on that either. We're talking about suffering. So, about 2002, I got sick. Also coincidentally gave myself to God, consecrated myself to God, hoping and thinking that, it's all good now. I give my life to God. He's going to fix me. He's going to take care of everything. Lo and behold, he really didn't. He didn't heal my sickness. He didn't make me better. I guess I could say the best thing he's done is maintained my life. I haven't died yet. So far, I've never been homeless. But everything else, literally everything else that makes a man, that makes a man normal, I have went through. No job, no money, no woman, right? No kids, no family, right? I've been going through that since 2002. All right, struggle. Pain, depression, illness, fatigue, doubts, suicidal thoughts, you name it, man. I've dabbled in substance abuse, so I've never done hard drugs, thank God. Well, I did mushrooms, which may have be what hurt my brain way back in 2000. I think it was, summer of 2001, actually. So ironically, my life went to shit the exact same time that 9/11 happened. This is way, way back, right? 2001, essentially 20 years ago now. 20 years ago in about a month, right? Because we're in August, so September 11th, even less than a month, right? So 20 years ago, I started suffering, which is good, for me to make a video like this because it's 20-year anniversary. Actually, it was this summer. So 20 years ago, this summer, I did mushrooms, and after I did mushrooms, I got depressed. I had depression, and it was like my brain was broken. Like I couldn't function. I didn't work anymore. Like I couldn't wake up to go to school. It was my senior year. I was on varsity basketball team. I had no idea I mean, I knew other kids who did it and it was like fine. And I had no idea that it was going to hurt my brain. But what I think predisposed me to the damage from it was that I had concussions when I was a kid. I had 3 major concussions when I was a kid. Before the age of 9 or 10, I think. Yeah, 3 major concussions. One of them was when I was a baby. My dad had me on the top of a car, and it was like a Volkswagen Beetle, I believe, if my memory of the story serves me correctly. And because it was a Volkswagen Beetle, they have that curved top, and I was in a baby carrier, and my dad put me up there for a second, and I slid off, and I hit straight onto my head, and I guess there was blood. I'm not sure, because I have literally I can feel on my head, in the front of my head, there's a little chip. There's like a little piece of my skull missing. And that's, my mom said that's from when he dropped you, when you were a baby. So I literally was dropped on my head as a baby. People always say, I always watch these videos or these sitcoms or whatever, and they talk about, they joke about, hey, were you dropped on the head as a baby? Like, they say that because it's true. When you drop your kid on his head when he's a baby, probably causes brain damage, probably messes the kid up. So it's funny, but it's also kind of sad. It's like, I really was dropped on my head as a baby, and it's like, it's fucked up. So that happened. That was number 1. Number 2, I ran into this kid head on, straight away, bam, we butted heads. I think we were in some little church group where there was like candy in the middle, kind of a stupid ass game if you think about it. Candy in the middle, and everybody was running around, and then when they hit a stop clock, everybody ran in and grabbed candy. They ran in head first, and I butted this kid's head, and I guess it was super loud. My mom said it was like super loud, and she was freaked out, and I think I got knocked out. I think we both got knocked out or something like that. And the third one, I fell down some stairs, and I don't think these are in sequence. I actually think the stairs happened second, and then the headbutt happened third. So I fell down some stairs. Yeah, that's the way it happened. Because when I headbutted, I was like 7 years old or 6 or something like that. And when I fell down the stairs, I was like 3 or 4. And then when I was a baby, when I fell off the car, I was like probably 10 months or something like that. I don't know how old. Anyway, so I fell down some stairs head first, butted my head on some concrete at the bottom. So that was 3 concussions before I was even 7. Or excuse me, yeah, probably before I was even 7. Yeah, I think that's the truth. And then to top it all off, when I was 7, I remember realizing, I remember having the memory of walking around the apartment complex we lived in Moses Lake, Washington, which is pretty much desert, pretty much a little fucking hole in the wall city in the middle of Washington State. That's where I was born. But anyway, walking around our apartment complex, realizing that my family was dysfunctional, right? Cops would come to our house because my dad was beating up my mom. My dad was drunk and high a lot. Not even high off weed, because he probably would be more chill if he was high off weed. He was high off of glue. He used to sniff glue and like paint thinner or some shit. He used to huff it. So my dad was a pretty much fuck up. So not only did I have these head bangs, these concussions, and they didn't even treat me right. In like the 80s, they didn't really know what concussions were. Like, there's a movie that came out in like 2016, I believe. It's called what's it called? It might be called Concussion. It's with Will Smith. It's a football movie about football, how these guys get concussions and how there's this big cover up and all this shit. I never watched it because I didn't really want to. It probably would make me depressed. But I know that came out. So there was a lot of news on CTE, which is, anyway, CTE. You can Google it. It's like concussions, chronic something. Chronic head injury, something like that. Anyway, so not only did I have 3 major concussions, but I had a dysfunctional family, and that took me, and I was 7 years old, and it took me 10, 11, 12 years, so I was 19 to even really get over that outwardly even get over that, or inwardly, I don't even know what the word is, but I got over it when I was 18, 19, because I realized, oh, hey, well, it's time for me to fly the coop. I had a crappy family, although admittedly, like, I had a lot of fun growing up. I still have a lot of nostalgic memories. I had a lot of fun growing up, because Washington, I'm so thankful I grew up in Eastern Washington and not Western Washington. So thankful I grew up in Spokane and not Seattle. But anyway, that's a whole nother story in and of itself as well. So thankfully I did have a lot of good memories from, my childhood. I had a lot of fun, but when I was 19, I got sick and I had a breakdown, and it was probably because I did those mushrooms, which, the concussions, I believe, predisposed me to having a weak brain. And what I learned after I did them, somebody told me that, well, the reason why you're high on mushrooms, or you hallucinate on mushrooms, is because it's making your brain sick. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I just thought it was like some kind of effects. I didn't know the science behind it. And it took me a couple years to really realize, oh shit, I probably damaged my brain doing that. And I also was like drinking, and I was on the basketball team. I had a lot of friends who were like partiers, and I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie, Basketball Diaries, but my life was kind of like that, minus the hard drugs. Like, we would party, like we would get 24 packs of beer, we would get fifths of alcohol, and I'm talking 1999, 2000, back when I was 17, 18. I'm talking about high school, right? I'm talking about like junior year of high school. We partied like all the time, and I'm not proud of it. We had a lot of fun, but also I had a lot of we drank for real. Like, we had competitions who could down the most shots, who could drink the most beers, crazy shit, man. And I had blackouts and stuff, so I'm sure I did some damage there. Thankfully, I when I was 19, I made a decision to walk away from that whole lifestyle. I made a decision to walk away from all those friends who were like such a bad influence. In fact, I made such a strong decision that I moved cities, and I left Spokane and I moved to Seattle. And I hated it because I realized that I hate liberals. I'm conservative. I love conservative people. They're good people. Spokane is a great city for the people, man. It's such a beautiful city for the people. The people are so nice. The type of people that will look you in the eye, say hi to you on the street, have a conversation with you and they don't even know you. The type of people who really care. The exact opposite of people in Seattle. Nobody gives a shit about you in Seattle. Nobody cares, which is kind of a good thing in a way, particularly for me. Like, I'm an introvert. In a way, it's a good thing. But there's no love, right? People don't care about you. They don't love you, right? So I came here, made that whole decision. But also when I came here, I had a nervous breakdown. I was under a lot of stress, had a nervous breakdown. They told me I had like schizophrenia and shit. I didn't have schizophrenia. I wasn't hearing voices, although I had a breakdown and I was like out of my head. I was thinking wacky shit for like 3 or 4 days, and I was literally admitted to the hospital. But after like a month or two of rest, I quit school, quit my senior year. I eventually went back and got my diploma a year later. But I quit school. I was sick. I quit that whole year, and basically just chilled for like a year. And then I got better, and I was like, okay, I don't like. I was scared for like months and months. I was scared that I had schizophrenia. I was like, I don't want to hear voices. This is fucked up. I don't want to be mentally ill. Particularly schizophrenia. I think that's like one of the worst mental illnesses, because it's like you're confused at everything. You think you're hearing voices. You think certain things are just for you. You look at street signs and you're like, oh, what? That street sign is there for me, or all this like crazy shit. And I was kind of feeling like that for a minute. But I think maybe I was having a flashback from the mushrooms. I don't know. But I had a lot of stress, and basically I chalked it up to a mental breakdown. I chalked it up to a nervous breakdown. So after that happened, that's when I took the red pill. Because what had happened was I was really popular in high school, really popular. I was on varsity basketball team. I was a good basketball player. Everybody knew me as the basketball player. Everybody knew me as a baller. Like, we would go, there's a big tournament in Spokane every year in the summer called Hoop Fest. And everybody just goes downtown Spokane, and it's just packed with ballers, packed with people like professional ballers, people from everywhere. I'd go down there and see like John Stockton hanging out. I'd see like, members of the Sonics sometimes. I think I saw Sean Kemp one time. I can't remember, or maybe that was at a basketball camp. I forget, because they had a lot of basketball camps in Spokane. Spokane is a big hockey city, but it's also a really big basketball city. It's a big baseball city too. They got the Spokane Indians over there. But anyway, so I was balling. Everybody knew me as a baller. We would win Hoop Fest. I think we won 3 years in a row from junior or sophomore year. No, from freshman year in high school, freshman, sophomore, junior years. We won Hoop Fest, first place every year in the division we were in. I don't think it was even the most competitive division. We probably wouldn't have won the most competitive division because I was on a team just with my friends. But we still won, and it was like we took first place every year, and it was just fun. It was cool. Like, I was just balling. I was hitting every shot. I was doing like Allen Iverson moves on people. They would record me, and I'd have like a mixtape and all this stuff. And my friends were like, man, you're balling, dude. You're gonna go to college and all this shit. I thought I was gonna go to college. I had recruiters send me recruiting letters to go try out for their team, so maybe I could get a scholarship. I had like San Jose State, I had Portland State, and I had a couple other ones I don't remember. I think I got like 4 recruiting letters total my junior year. And so senior year was supposed to be my big year. I was going to play good and all this, but I did these mushrooms and I got fucked up. And it's like, everything was over, and I realized that like the way I was going with these friends, because I couldn't stop partying, because there was so much peer pressure, right, to go party, and I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no to these guys. So I had 2 older brothers who played basketball, and they cared about me, and they were like, look, man, we're going to move you to Seattle. This is what we want to do because we have heard that you're not going to school and you're hanging out with these kids and it's bad for you, and we want you to have a future, so we're going to come get you and move you to Seattle. And that's what they did. But when I got here, it was a lot of stress. It was a new environment. It's a significantly bigger city than Spokane. It's like 5 times bigger than Spokane. Nobody cared about me. It was a culture shock. I didn't have any friends. I went to the school. I tried out, and they basically cut me because, first of all, it was politics. Because the guys who were playing there had already been playing there since they were freshmen, and I'm coming in out of nowhere my senior year, and I was good enough to play on the team. Like, I was hanging with them, but my grades weren't good, and also these kids, like, their parents like donate to the school and shit, and these guys have been playing together since freshman year. They all knew each other. They didn't know me from Adam. I'm just this kid, and I'm coming out here. I'm doing like street ball moves, and I'm like, they're like, what's going on with this kid? Like, he's good, but can he really fit in and be a role player? Can he really fit into our program? We've already got our star guy. I remember they had their star guy, and he was like dunking and all this stuff, and I couldn't even dunk, but I was still balling. So basically, the guy cut me. He said it was because my grades were really bad. Because I was just struggling. I had low self-esteem, all this shit, right? So that was the beginning of my sufferings in my Christian life, was like losing basketball, losing my popularity, losing who I was. And it was also what red-pilled me, because I was like, oh, okay. So I'm cool and I'm popular in this city because I'm established, because I've known like my friend group since like 8th grade. We've all been pals. Everybody's like, oh yeah, that's Jay. He's hanging out with these guys, and these guys are the cool guys. These guys are the party guys. So we like Jay, and so everybody liked me, and people would like talk to me out of nowhere. Girls would hit on me. People would like, flatter me, all this stuff, right? Because I'm Jay. I'm the guy who's part of the cool kids. Not only that, I'm on varsity basketball, right? I wasn't even that outgoing. I didn't talk to anybody. I wasn't like super shy. I was a nice guy, but I wasn't like, super outgoing, blah, 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 like talk to everybody, and right. So people would come up and talk to me and like be friends with me. You know, people would call me by my name and like give me all this respect. And it wasn't because I was a nice guy. It wasn't because like, you know, and I took note of that. I was like, these guys aren't, you know, these girls aren't hitting on me because I'm super good looking. They're hitting on me because I'm, you know, so sexy and hot. It's because I'm popular. And I learned that after I moved. Because once I moved, I was nobody. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have an established friend group. I didn't even make the team. So I'm just this average Joe all of a sudden. People knew I was balling because I would play at like I would play in like the little, you know, they had these like little tournaments at school and like these little intramurals or whatever. And I would play and I'd just be killing people and they'd be like, dang, this guy's good. He's balling. Like and even guys would go and tell the coach. Guys would be like, this guy's good. Like you got to sign him on the team. What's going on? Da 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 da. But the coach was still like, nah, this is politics. You know, I'm going to cut this guy. So it didn't work. So they knew I was balling. Even though they knew I was balling, because I wasn't on the team, because I didn't have any friends, it was like girls didn't care. And it was like, and I was like, oh, I get it. And that's what red pilled me. And I was like, okay, it's all about popularity. It's all about status, you know. And you know, over time, I realized that, you know, after I graduated high school, and I was like kind of going to college here and there, like some, you know, some community colleges, I realized like I'm not even that good looking. Like people don't, like girls aren't even checking for me. Girls aren't concerned or worried about me. So like this, not only was it suffering, it was also what, you know, basically red pilled me. But I did find God at that time. I did start reading the Bible because I was like, you know, what's going on here? You know, what is this about? You know, why am I here? What am I doing here? Like, what's life about? So what I would do is I'd go to the library. And I always liked going to the library when I was a kid because I like reading the comics and stuff. And I was interested in some books. I was kind of a bookie kind of kid a little bit. I would like read. I've read some great books in my life. Not a whole lot, but I don't read as much as like, you know, somebody who actually reads. I don't read that much anymore. But I did when I was growing up. I read a few books, and I really liked reading books. So I'll go to the library, sometimes try to check out books. And what I did when I was 19 was I would go to the library and I would just check out as many books as I can on everything. I would just check out books, self-help books, economic books, world history books, books on leaders. You know, I would, you know, read like, you know, books on philosophy, great books on, you know, ancient novel writers, you know, like Leo Tolstoy, Mark Twain. You know, I tried to read like War and Peace, although I couldn't make it because it's a huge book and it was so boring. Just books like that, like old school books, you know, and even contemporary books. I like John Steinbeck a lot, you know, Hemingway. I tried to read Shakespeare. I had a big book of like short stories that I would read. And I wanted to read this stuff because I wanted to like figure out how people think. And I wanted to figure out like, what's this life about? Because like I had a dysfunctional family, as I explained, and it was like, what am I doing here? Like what, you know, my dad never taught me anything. Because a lot of people, you realize that a lot of people, they're not really thinking outside the box. A lot of people are just in this life for survival. A lot of people are just doing A to B, right? Okay, I got to go to my job so I can make this money, so I can eat, so I can survive. And that's their life, just every day, day in and day out. And I was like, is there something more than that? Because I don't want to just be a hamster on the, you know, a hamster on a wheel. And I wanted to make myself smarter. I wanted to improve so that I could like sidestep that. Because I was like, I went and worked these restaurant jobs. I worked at KFC. I worked at Taco Time. You know, I worked at these little shitty jobs, you know, as a caterer out, you know, I worked in a retirement home, washing dishes for a while. And I realized like, I don't want to just be a worker. Like I want something more. And that was part of my motivation for trying to figure out what life was about. And as I was reading these books, I couldn't really find any answers. You know, I read stuff like Nietzsche. I read stuff like, Voltaire, all these quotes, Henry David Thoreau, like all these philosophers, and they just weren't saying nothing. I read The Art of War, Sun Tzu. I read some Confucius. They weren't saying nothing. I read all this ancient poetry. I really like poetry. Nobody was saying anything. Nobody was like explaining anything. There was nothing that was like had any answers. And then I picked up the Bible, and it was like, oh, well, here it all is. This is all the answers, right? Explains why we're here, explains what God's doing, explains that there is a God, right? And it is faith. It's not like I just read something and just believe it, like, oh, well, you're conditioned to believe it. That's whenever you argue with atheists, they always throw that out. Oh, the only reason you believe in the Christian Bible is because you were born into a Christian household. It's like, no, not really, actually. I've read the Quran. I don't have a good feeling about the Quran. I've read, like I said, I read all these other philosophers. I read all kinds of ancient books and stuff, and nothing was really, nothing was doing it for me. And then I read the Bible, and it was like, something within me was like, yes, this is right. Something within me was like, yeah, this is what it's all about. And that's really the reason why I stuck with it, was because of that feeling that I had when I was like, this is real. And I've had a lot of experiences of God, right? So that happened, and I read this verse, and I think I remember the verse. I went out to this field, not a field. It was a wooded area in Bellevue, Washington, called Bridle Trails, and I used to walk there all the time because when I moved here to Seattle area, we lived in the East Side, which is, it's still technically Seattle, it's essentially Seattle, but it's really not. It's technically the East Side, it's technically Bellevue, and it is a different environment. So anyway, that's another story in and of itself. But living in near this place called Bridle Trails, I would go for these walks in the trails, and I would just like contemplate life. And I really liked Henry David Thoreau, because it was like what I found when I left society. Because if you read the book Walden, he leaves society, and I found like I felt like I found myself when I left society. Like when I was in society, when I was in the Matrix, when I was trying to fit in, trying to maintain friendships, all this stuff, I didn't feel like my true self. I didn't feel like that's who I really was. I felt phony. I felt fake. I felt like I was just trying to fit in, and I felt like I was putting on this. I didn't feel comfortable. And I learned later that part of that was me being an introvert. Another part of it was me being a Christian. And Christians they're called out from birth. They're different. We're different for a reason. We don't fit in with this world. I think it says in John, I can't remember what, I think it's John 14. I don't know. I can't remember what chapter. I'm probably totally wrong, but it says, don't be surprised if the world hates you. The world hated me, before it hated you. Let's find that verse real quick. The world hated me first. And I love this verse because, John 15. I love this verse because it really talks about where we come from as believers. We're not of this world. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. So neither can you unless you abide in me. This is metaphysical stuff, man. Right? The Bible is so deep. It's so incredibly deep. There's stuff in here that would just, if you really understood it, it would blow your socks off. Blow your mind. Absolutely blow your mind. And it's funny because people try to say it's like some stupid book that's used for control and opposition. It's like, dude, I've read the best philosophers. I've read all kinds of old books. There's no way they can come up with what's in the Bible. Only God can write what's in the Bible. People might say, well, the Bible was written by men. Yes, it was written by men who were inspired by God, meaning God was writing through them. Okay? Anyway, I am the vine, you are the branches, he who abides in me. Let's get to it. Let's get to the point. So this is, you can read this on your own. As the Father has loved me, I also have loved you. Damn, Where is it? There it is. If the world hates you, know that it has hated me before you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Those are verses that keep me going. Those are verses that give me hope. Those are verses that have helped me to not commit suicide. Those are verses that have helped me to, keep going, sustain my, faith. Because when you're not fitting in this world, that's why, man. The world hates you because you're not of the world. You're supposed to be of God. It's like, oh, no wonder they don't like us. No wonder we don't fit in. No wonder we don't fit in, because we're not of this world. If you were of the world would love its own. This is why people love other people of the world, because they're of the world. But if you're of God, if you're called out, if you're a believer, if you're a Christian, that means you're set apart. You're set apart. You're not one of these worldly people. This is why they don't love you, because you're not one of them. And this is what I learned when I left the Matrix, was like, oh, I'm not of this world. I'm different. I'm of a different family. God is my father, and it's like, it just took me so long to figure that out. And I went through so much pain of rejection and, feeling ostracized because I didn't fit in, and feeling low self-esteem because I was like, what's wrong with me? Why don't people like me? Why don't I get along? Like, what's going on? I mean, I used to be popular and all this, but I learned the only reason I was popular is because I had, popularity from being on the basketball team, because I was friends with the cool kids. That's it. But then when that was taken away outwardly, all of a sudden, nobody cared about me. All of a sudden, people were like, who's this weirdo guy? And it was just like, oh. But then I learned that, oh, well, they don't like me because I'm not like them. I'm not one of them. I'm not of this world. It's like, oh, that makes sense, But anyway, let me continue this on the next video. I'm going to stop it for now, and I'm going to get back to what I was talking about. Thanks for watching. Peace.